whether you like Ngolo Kante or not, I'm going to let you know in this particular video that, Ngolo Kante would actually be a good president in Africa. All right. Just to give you a background of who he is. All right. Um, I think we all know that he's a footballer. In case you don't know, this is what Ngolo Kante can do on a pitch, actually.
God have mercy upon us.
Did you just see that? But I'm not trying to say he would be a good president in Africa just because of his football talent, but because of his personality. All right. Can you imagine when he went to Mali, all that he's wearing is not up to 6 euros?
Alors que c'est un milliardaire. D'autres disent qu'il aurait oublié son code bancaire. Regarde, toute sa tenue n'atteint pas 6 euros. Alors...
All right. When he recently went to Mali, his home country, I mean, the way he presented himself and everything, he's all that he's wearing is not even up to 6 euros per this reportage. All right, done on him. So I would definitely play the rest of this video and then translate what they are saying in French into English so that you would understand, all right, what they are saying about his personality and everything. But I genuinely think that if he were to be a president in Africa, he would be a good president, all right? By a quick disclaimer, please. I'm not by this saying Ngolo Kante is currently into politics. I'm not aware of that. And I'm not by this saying he's trying to become a president or anything. I'm not by this saying any of that. He just visited his home country, Mali, and I landed on this particular video on Facebook. A reportage about him. How he handled himself, and it is not unusual of him. This how he actually presents himself anywhere at all he goes. All right, he's somebody that is down to earth. Very simple. Very talented football, famous, and one of the affluent footballers, but who never, uh, presents himself like a rich person. He's always like this, right? Which is unbelievable, right? So, um, I honestly think that if he were to be a president, then he would be like the president of what do they call him? The president of Uruguay. That's what I really think. He would be like the president of Uruguay, in my honest opinion. You know, or is it the
The top
ex-president of
job
Uruguay?
often comes with a top car. For the US president, it's a Cadillac known as the Beast. For the British Prime Minister, it's a Jaguar XJ Sentinel. And Germany's Chancellor goes for a BMW. Custom built, armoured, and luxurious. Perhaps not the words you'd use for the president of Uruguay's vehicle. This, a 1987 VW Beetle. But Jose Mujica says an Arab sheikh has now offered him $1 million for the car. It's an offer that's amused people in the South American.
All right. Anyway, so I honestly think that Ngolo Kante would have been a, a fantastic president, similar to the ex-president, or I don't know whether he's the current president of Uruguay. Okay, very simplistic and down to earth. And yeah, but I'm not by this saying, presidents that are um, luxurious, okay, or that are enjoying their presidential privileges aren't good presidents. That's not what I'm saying. All right. But I really think when it comes to Africa, given the fact that um, we are still lacking behind in terms of infrastructural development, industrialization, and many more, I feel like we would need a president that is actually as down to earth as Ngolo Kante, or the ex-president of Uruguay, and who is actually willing, to sacrifice. I'm not by this saying, you know, the president going hungry, no, but a modest president like Ngolo Kante, though Ngolo Kante is not yet a president, but somebody that is as modest and uh, as humble as him, okay, would be a good president in Africa, because currently as we speak in most African countries, we have like presidents having all kinds of luxurious cars. Some even have private jets, right? And expensive cars that actually consume a lot of fuel. And we actually have like a lot of ministers. Sometimes, I mean, we could even reduce the number of cabinet ministers and all of that, but we have a lot of ministers, and all these ministers and members of parliament, sometimes a whole lot of parliamentarians, you know, all of them are paid very high salaries. They all have to be provided with the latest, fuel consuming vehicles. They all have to be provided with free accommodation, and many more benefits just for the fact that they are what ministers or members of parliament. Let's to talk of what the president himself even takes home. All right. So imagine that we had a more moderate, you know, leadership. I mean, leadership system. All right, with leaders that are as modest and as simple as the ordinary citizen. Okay, or as Ngolo Kante. I mean, we would be saving a lot of money and using those monies to build our industries, our infrastructure, our roads, and what have you. You know, I really think that we don't, because if the politician or if the president is looks far 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 better than his people, so it's like he's getting rich while the people are poor. So that's why we have a lot of corruption in our countries and in other countries similar to Africa. So where we actually have a lot of resources, but these resources are not used to the benefit of the people. Imagine we had somebody with the personality of Ngolo Kante, who is down to earth. I mean, being a president and actually serving his people. You know, not only does Ngolo Kante serve his fans, by his unmatched, football skills. Okay.
God have mercy upon us.
All right. Not only does he do this, but like I said, he's very, very modest. All right. And he's down to earth, full of humility and all the good traits of a person with a good character you can ever think of. All right. So let's continue with the video. So they are saying that he recently went to his home country in Mali. I think he was born in France, if I'm not mistaken, but he's of Malian descent. Okay, his parents immigrated from Mali, so he recently went to his home country in Mali, and then this is how he showed up. Right, even his home people look, you know, more luxurious than he is. Very simple. And it's not because he was going to Mali that he dressed this way. This is usually how he dresses,
Alors
you
que
know.
c'est un milliardaire. D'autres disent
Right. So they are saying that all that he's wearing is not even up to 6 euros. Meanwhile, he's a billionaire or a millionaire, who knows, you know, as a professional top class footballer. Oh, look at how simple he is. Right. So some people were saying he probably might have forgotten of even his credit card or something, considering how simple he is.
disent qu'il aurait oublié son code bancaire. Regarde bien, ce n'est pas
or his pin, his credit card pin or something. So he's too
pas un
simple.
agent de sécurité. Pire encore, il
The guy making the commentary is very funny. He's saying, looking at him, you might think he's a security agent, but he's not even a security agent.
a décidé d'acheter une ancienne moto pour ses courses quotidiennes.
All right. Can you imagine when he was in Mali? This is the motorbike that he used for his errands. All right. This is the motorbike that he was using. He bought an old motorbike to use, in Mali instead of actually, he could have been driven around, in any car of his choice.
Incroyable, n'est-ce pas? Pourtant, c'est vrai. Ce footballeur français utilise un Intel P12, un téléphone
He uses Intel P12 mobile phone. All right. A very simple
que
mobile
même les
phone.
tout petits enfants du village refusent d'utiliser. On l'appelle
That a smartphone that even uh, children in the villages wouldn't want to use such a smartphone like Intel P12, right? Everybody would want to use iPhone today or Samsung or any other Android phone, but not Intel P12.
Ngolo Kante. Ce joueur humble et discret ne veut jamais qu'on le filme. On dirait
He's very humble and um, how do we say this and likes discretion. He doesn't want to be seen. He's an introvert, if I may say, and he doesn't really want to be videoed or you know or taking pictures.
même qu'il a peur de la caméra, mais ce n'est
Some people say he's probably afraid of the camera,
pas le cas. C'est simplement son humilité.
it, but it's just that he's very humble, and it's just because of his humility.
Souvent, il regarde ses coéquipiers jouer comme s'ils ne savaient pas jouer au foot. Vous vous demandez sûrement, est-ce vraiment un footballeur payé avec un salaire? Depuis sa naissance, il n'a fêté qu'une seule fois son anniversaire. Et la
He watches his colleague footballers play as if he's not even a footballer on his own. But I first showed you how skillful he is. You know, he only celebrated his birthday once.
raison va vous choquer. Ngolo Kante garde juste assez d'argent pour payer son café et son loyer. Le reste,
And that the reason he gave is that he keeps enough money to pay his rent and his coffee, but the rest of the money goes to
il le dépense pour aider les pauvres et soutenir sa communauté.
he spends the rest of his money to help the poor and help his community, especially back in Mali, as you can see.
Ce gars n'est pas juste un footballeur, c'est un héros. Il mérite d'être couronné comme le footballeur le plus humble de tous les temps.
That he deserves to be crowned. He's not just a footballer, but he's actually a legend, and a hero, and he deserves to be crowned as the footballer, the most humble footballer of all time.
Partout où il passe, il laisse une trace inoubliable de respect, de gentillesse.
Wherever he goes, he leaves people amazed, by his humility and kindness.
Et d'humilité. Même quand il a les moyens de vivre dans le luxe, il préfère rester simple et proche des gens. Ngolo
Even when even though he might have all it takes to live a luxurious life, he always prefer living a low-key life and being around his people.
Kanté est la preuve vivante qu'on peut être une grande star et garder un cœur aussi pur.
He is a living testimony that you can be rich and still what did he say? I want to get a right translation. And still have a pure heart. Okay, you can be rich and still be humble and still have a pure heart. What I wished the reporter would have added would be that he's using his money, like he keeps what is enough for him to maybe pay his rent, right? And buy his coffee, as the reporter said, but uses the rest of his money to build maybe industries and you know, create employment for his people, instead of uh, saying that he only keeps that money and then gives the rest of the money. Use he did never. I mean, he never detailed that part. He just said he keeps his money and uses. Sorry, he keeps enough money with him to be able to uh, pay his rent and buy his coffee, and gives dashes the rest to charity and to help the poor and his people, which is perfect. But I don't know whether that's exactly how he does it. Nobody knows. But I'm just saying, if I were the reporter, and I don't know whether Ngolo Kante does it that way, but I really think Africans, we don't need enough of the handouts. Okay, we want industries. We want our affluent sportsmen, entrepreneurs, and whatever should be interested in building companies, right, to create employment for the youth, and that is the way forward. You know, we need to industrialize and produce what we consume instead of constantly relying on aid. Whether this aid is coming from our kind and generous celebrities and superstars like Ngolo Kante, or this aid is coming from NGOs or whatever. We want, uh, more industries. All right. But like I said, considering his kind heart and his personality and humility and everything, I really think we would need a president like Ngolo Kante. Ngolo Kante, if he sees my video, I'm urging him to stand for presidency in any African country, but especially of his home country, Mali. I'm a big fan. Let me know in the comment section whether you like Ngolo Kante or not, and why you like him or you don't like him. Bye for now.